Good morning and welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Director of Social Media for HAR, and we have a great program lined up for you today. But on a sad note, before we begin the show, I do want to express our sadness over the loss of three great leaders in the real estate industry over the past week. 2021 HAR Chair Richard Miranda, 1998 HAR Chair George C. Stevens, and Mark Lehman, who is the longtime VP of Governmental Affairs for Texas REALTORS. Each of these people contributed to the success of HAR and REALTORS across the state, and we honor their memory. And I know Amber and Karen, you both worked closely with a few of these leaders yourself.
Yes, absolutely. They paved the way for where we are today at HAR.
Thank you. Thank you for honoring them, Christina.
Yes, of course. Yes, and it kind of lines into our topic today because, as you're saying, they paved the way, and a lot of the work that you do, they were closely related to some of that work. So before we get into everything we want to discuss today, you've both been on this program before, but I would love if you could just give us a brief introduction, tell us who you are and what you do for HAR, and also how your departments work together. And we can start with you on this one, Karen.
Well, thank you so much, Christina. Yes, as you mentioned, we're here because of the legacy of those that came before us, and we're honored to continue that legacy. I'm the Director of Political Affairs in TREPAC, and that means that I do all the candidate interviews. I get make candidate recommendations on behalf of the association, along with my the Political Affairs Advisory Group. I'm the liaison for that. They make those decisions, and then also all the PAC fundraising activities, the events, and all the PAC accounting, which can take a while also. So those are all the details that we do. And so we make those candidate recommendations, and then once they get elected, they go over to Amber, right, Amber?
Correct.
Yeah, so Amber, tell us a little bit about your role.
So government affairs and advocacy really is the bridge building, the relationship maintaining, and advocating for issues important to real estate and HAR members. So once the process Karen explained, we do our candidate interview process. We make contributions to the elected officials. It comes to the government affairs department, and we have the government affairs advisory group. So we have the GAG and the PAG, and it's just really government relations, engaging the members to engage with elected officials, creating those opportunities for our members to get the word out on what's going on in real estate, what policies are great, what policies are not so great, what we need to be working on, etc.
Okay, and how does the work that your department does, how does that benefit HAR members? Oh, Amber, you can start with this one.
Okay, so one of the most recent in the last few years benefits, I think the biggest benefit that we can talk about would be during COVID, when everyone was concerned about what would be essential and non-essential, and our advocacy really kept HAR members working the entire time, and we were able to get real estate to be essential at the local level, and then Governor Abbott codified that at the state level. So I think that's like one of my favorite examples. Even though it was a tumultuous time, we were still able to work. We're able to people to shelter in place at home, but you can't do that if the closing didn't go through or the county office was closed.
Okay, thank you. And Karen?
Well, it's beneficial because during the candidate interview process, that's when we start these relationships. That's our first opportunity to meet these potential elected officials, and that's where we really start building these relationships. And also, when you investing in the PAC is also making insurance policy on your career. So just being part of this process, and when you're advocating for the realtor industry and the real estate industry, you're working even harder on behalf of your clients. So it's another tool in your toolkit as well.
Okay, very good. It seems like sometimes people don't realize what's happening in your areas until something happens that affects them, right? So like, everything coming to a halt during COVID, for example. But it's your jobs to really pay attention all the time to what could impact the real estate industry. And we're going to get into some details of that in today's show. Starting with just last week, Amber, HAR sent out a notice to all members about the discontinuation of the HAR 400 form. Can you tell us what the reasoning was for that, and also what resources are available for members that need MUD information?
So MUDs are your municipal utility districts. I live in Fort Bend County. We have several MUDs. They're all over the state. That's how we have different ways in Texas of how we get our water to your subdivision, to your home. So I might have to look down a little bit to because I don't want to misquote. But during this past session, we had two bills that changed how the MUDs notice of information for the MUD districts, and we at HAR we have HAR Form 400, and it was deleted because the information in that form is no longer applicable. It's no longer law. The changes went into effect on June 18th. So if you're not familiar with that, make sure you check your email and the matrix to see their notices that went out last week. So this is one that's different. Typically, new laws passed in the legislature go into effect September 1st, but because there was over a 2/3 majority vote, this went into effect back in June. But basically, all of the information or notice must be contained on the district's website. And just like we have an association, what's really cool is the MUDs have their own association called the Association of Water Board Directors. And those are elected. So they have elected positions that are on your ballot. So if you don't like your MUD director, pay attention. You can vote for them or vote against them. And also, that's a resource for you. If you have questions, if you have a client with issues, I do get members that reach out to me with issues with MUDs. You can also go on har.com, but also reach out to that association who handles those issues.
Great. And how does that new law impacting the MUD notice of information process, how does that impact listings currently under contract?
So let's see here. The main issue is that you have to go on the website now to get the information. I believe that, and don't quote me, I'm not a realtor, so I always say that. I don't want anybody to run with this. I would say go to the HAR information, but anytime you have a failure to maintain, to enter that information and notify your client, they basically have waived their right to terminate the agreement. So it's like basically what they're saying is you now have notice. It's on the website, it's out there. You can't use saying, "Oh, I didn't get a form, I didn't sign it," as an excuse to not know about the MUD in your home is in.
Okay, great. We had a comment that came in. Paragon Property Group asked, "What do we do if a MUD doesn't have the information on their website?"
So I would think you would call them to say, what's going on? Why don't you have that? You're supposed to. We also have a department at HAR that you can reach out to help you to navigate that. That would be, and I guess someone can put the email in the chat, but it's misqa@har.com. That's our quality assurance.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not MIS, MLS. Our MLS department can kind of help you navigate that situation. But I would reach out to the MUD district. And like I said, also reach out to the Association of Water Board Directors because they would be able to be like, hey, you guys aren't compliant with the new laws.
Absolutely. And so we did put the MLSQA email address in the chat. It's just mlsqa@har.com. We also put in a link to the update to the process with some frequently asked questions. And there is also a link within Matrix that you can click on to get more information as well. So, Amber, how can members learn more about MUD?
So the FAQs, I think, which reading over them are really great that we have. I mean, that's one of the advantages that HAR has, that we always have tools and links to where you can go. Also, the Texas TCEQ is the resource that's overarching for the MUD districts for the state of Texas. So you can go to their website. You can also get copies of the notice for $10 a copy. And then always talk to your broker and legal counsel if you have any questions about the actual contract, especially if it was executed after June 18th.
Okay. A question came in from Rashonda. How do we reach out to the water board director? So how do you contact them?
I would just go on their website and look for contact support. I do have a contact there that I could, if you ever need help, reach out to Government Affairs, and we always can help you to navigate that process. We work hard, not only with elected officials, but one of the roles that I have is to work with other associations that are adjacent that we interface with. So AWBD is one of those associations. So Rashonda, definitely if you had an issue, we can do that. But I would just go to the website, and I'm sure they have an email or contact that you can reach out on there and to make initial contact.
All right, very good. Thank you. So moving into other topics under that are going into effect September 1st. What other laws will go into effect September 1st that could impact the real estate industry?
So I always get nervous to get too down into the nitty gritty on these because there's so many. There are some that definitely that we followed and monitored during the legislative session and worked with Texas Realtors on. That some are good, some are not great. This one really goes back to Karen's department that affects Harris County. Would be our elections. Mm-hmm. So I really think and I know Karen probably will speak on this, but I think it's important to understand how to vote. I forgot, Karen, how many percentage of our members are registered?
92%.
Which is amazing. So almost 100% members are registered, but now make sure you know how to vote. So one of the laws that goes into effect is Harris County appointed an elections administrator to run elections. And I think, Christina, you had them on the first one on More Focus Monday. Mm-hmm. So again, we're always trying to be with the information. Now that's going back to the county clerk. So that's something in Texas that's interesting, is that you have a county clerk and you have a county tax assessor collector that both deal with elections. So in a county the size of Harris County, Dallas County, Bexar County, that's a lot, because they not only handle voting registration, they handle getting your car inspected, any tax situations, not the appraisal district, but they also handle the tax. They handle so many things: birth certificates, marriage certificates. So a lot of times it's outsourced, but the legislature ruled that any, I believe, with a million plus county with a million plus people had to go back to the county clerk, and then the Secretary of State would oversee that. So the only county with that in Texas is Harris County. So that's one of the big ones. Another bill that went into effect that will affect us at the local level it was called the Death Star bill in the news, but it's really a preemption bill that would preempt cities and municipalities from enacting any ordinances and policies that usurp the authority of the state legislature. The problem with that is it's very broad, and so we don't know how that impacts. One of the examples that it intended to regulate was in Dallas. The city was requiring contractors to give water breaks, and because it's so hot outside, to the construction, but that's really not a function of the city. I can say that our cities in our area weren't part of that problem. We really have great leadership that sticks to what they govern, but it's so broad and affects all of Texas. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen with that. There's already lawsuits. City of Houston's filed a lawsuit. San Antonio has signed on to that, and some other cities, because they need more clarity on what's going on. So this is a great example too of how your local state folks work together for the whole entire state of Texas. Another one is the Broadband Infrastructure Fund. That's going to be great. That's going to help with broadband access. Not so much in Houston, because we're blessed to have access to internet, but in some of, even just outside of Houston, going past the Woodlands, Conroe, those areas, and in your more rural areas, it's very difficult to get internet. So that's going to be a big one. And then also property tax relief was a big bill that passed. However, we'll talk about this a little bit later. It has to go to a vote with our constitutional amendment. So it's kind of a twofer. It's not going to go into effect on September 1st. It's going to be in November. Okay. But I could go on and on, Christina, so I'm going to stop.
Well, I know you probably wanted to highlight at least the ones that would impact our members the most. But let's talk about that tax cut plan. So how will the $18 billion tax cut plan impact property owners if voters approve it in November?
So the main thing is we're going from a 40,000 homestead exemption up to 100,000, which is huge. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said the average homeowner should save about $1,200 a year. So when you say that, it's like, that's not a lot of money $100 a month. But if you think about that over a 20, 30-year mortgage, that is a lot of money. That could be your kids' college tuition. That could be a nest egg during retirement. So it will make a difference for a lot of people. Also, you have a 20% appraisal cap and it's not just going to be applying to to residential. Also applies to commercial and people out of the state of Texas. I'm curious to see how people will feel about that. The fact that people that don't maybe live in Texas, aren't domiciled here, or residents are actually getting tax benefits that Texans should get. You could make an argument that while that's good or bad. So I'm curious to see how the voters will feel about that. But that's really and also the school districts will get some funding that should also bring down taxes as well.
Great. So tell us about, can you tell us about the 2023 constitutional amendments? You kind of alluded to it a little bit.
So there's 14. They're going to be on the ballot. And these are on when you go vote in November. Again, Karen will talk more about the elections we have coming up. But even if you don't, like, say, I live in Sugar Land, Texas. We don't have, like, a mayoral election or anything like that. But I'm still going to go vote for things like this. There's 14 amendments. But the ones that really apply to real estate that are important are there's a right to farm, because we have a major land use issue in some areas of Texas, and we need our ranches, we need our farmers. That's really the backbone of our economy. So we need to make sure we protect that. What I just mentioned, Proposition 4, the tax relief. That you're not going to get the $100,000 exemption if you don't go vote and say you agree with it. And that's a great thing about checks and balances. We're not just leaving it to the legislature, to the governor. We as citizens have a right to go vote and say we approve this. Another one that's important for Texas and that HAR has been involved with since Hurricane Harvey is developing a water infrastructure fund. Back in 2017, after Harvey, we began working very extensively on flood mitigation resiliency and realized that Texas didn't have a funding mechanism for disaster relief, flood relief, tornado relief, drought relief. So we're working hard on that since 2017. We did get some success in 2019 with funding, but it wasn't permanent. So there's another constitutional amendment on the ballot to create more funding for not just flood relief, but like I said, drought is a problem in Texas in certain areas, and also other disaster recovery like tornadoes. We have a lot of different situations of natural disasters in Texas, so it's important to have funding for that, especially from smaller cities that can't pass a bond election to raise that money. Another one is the energy fund. If you remember ERCOT, if you were cold a few winters ago.
I think everyone remembers that.
That's definitely going to be important. It's going to support construction, maintenance, modernization of electric generating facilities. I'm not an engineer. I'm always big to point out what I'm not. So I wouldn't be able to know what that means, but definitely we will be monitoring that, staying on top of it. It was a top issue. You may not saw that in the news. Probably heard all about school vouchers and sports in the news. However, the legislature was very concerned and very on top of addressing that issue. They are very aware. The last one that's important to us is broadband infrastructure. That is a huge issue. I'm really proud of Texas Realtors. It's not a real estate per se, but obviously we all need broadband. We all need internet access. So you got electronic notarization. You got your DocuSign forms. All those stuff are powered by the internet. So it's important that your clients have access to that. So I think realtors are not only worried about real estate exactly stuff, but also any issues that impact real estate. So those are the top ones that we need y'all to vote for. Those are all been supported by Texas Realtors. HAR will put out more information as voting gets close. We'll have information go out, so you don't have to memorize those today, but please remember in November there's some important ballots.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thank you for going through those. So Karen, I have some questions for you too, but I did want to just mention, in case anyone's not watching the chat, there was a question that came in about mud boards, and Nathan, who is our MLS manager, answered this question. So I wanted to just read it aloud because I have seen this question a lot on social media. Connie was asking, I heard some mud boards charged for the notice information. Are the listing agents responsible in paying for this? And if the listing agent does not provide this form, can the buyer terminate any time before closing? We got a response from Nathan. He said the MUD can charge up to $10 per request, which Amber mentioned as well. Who pays the fee would be between you and the seller. If the form is not provided, they can terminate, but please make sure to contact your legal counsel about this type of matter. So thank you for that answer there, Nathan. Just wanted to make sure we touched on that because I've seen that so much on social media. So very good. So Karen, kind of moving in your direction a little bit, we've been talking about these amendments, these constitutional amendments, but I know there's some important dates that we all need to be aware of. So can you tell us about the important election dates coming up?
Certainly, Christina. I know that, yes, this will be how you can vote and when you can vote for the constitutional amendments that Amber was talking about. The first one I want to mention is September 19th, which is National Voter Registration Day, which is an exciting sort of call out for everyone to get registered to vote. But as Amber and I were talking about earlier, 92% of realtors are registered to vote. So what we need you to actually go to the polls. So that's the next step. Thank you for registering to vote, but please go to the polls. So the last day to register to vote is October 10th, but early voting starts on October 23rd. So I know that sounds like a long time away from now, but it will be here before we know it. I bought a Halloween shirt over the weekend, so as we know, it'll be here right before we know it. And the last day to early vote will be November 3rd. The last day to apply for a mail-in ballot, which you can still do a mail-in ballot, and if that is what you feel comfortable doing, we encourage you to do that. If that's what you prefer to do, that last day to do the application, though, is October 27th. Election day is Tuesday, November 7th, and that will also be the last day that you can mail in your ballot. They have to receive it that same day, November 7th. So that is the day. Tuesday, November 7th will be election day this year. So super exciting times ahead.
Excellent. So just wanted to quickly go back because another question came in. I think this would be towards Amber. And I don't know if you or Texas Realtors are following this, but Nick asked, love the efforts towards small farming. Are there any more efforts in that area? Small chickens and small game. I'm not sure if you guys are following that, Amber, but I'm sure we can get an answer afterwards if not.
We actually did get a question about that during the session. One of the bills that we were asked about did not pass. It was trying to ban it. The issue is the cities and the counties trying to regulate it in the state. So I believe this amendment is going to protect it and probably keep laws from being passed, make them unconstitutional with this amendment. Right now, it's kind of a free-for-all because it's really done city to city, county to county.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So Amber, what else can we expect to see on the ballots this year?
Let's see.
I meant to throw that to Karen. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously the important fun stuff, the candidates.
Yeah.
So not only are these important constitutional amendments on the ballot as issues that we were just asked about with the small farming question, but you also have elections for the political candidates. So we have a big election in the city of Houston this year for the city of Houston mayor race. So that will be the sort of the shining star media attention one. But we also have 6 council seats on the ballot, as well as the city of Houston controller. And several other local races will be on the ballot this November, like the Woodlands Township, which has three seats open as well. So it's super exciting time. So you have a lot to vote on. Yes, it's not the presidential election, but there's still a lot of important races to vote on this November, especially because I'm just going to segue to our next question, Christina, is because the fact that, a lot of these, like I said, it's not a presidential election, but we still need you to go out and vote because these local elections, these are the city council members, the county people that make these decisions that Amber mentioned. They really do regulate, they determine your tax rates at the city level. All this really does impact you on the local level. We say that real estate is local, well, so is politics. And so it's very important to go out and vote in these local elections.
Okay, very good. And how can realtors encourage registering to vote and actually voting with their clients?
Yes, absolutely. So a great way to do that, and we'll have there's actually a frequently asked question about this coming up in the September Houston Realtor Magazine online. But we really encourage realtors to remind their clients, especially at the closing table, to update their voter registration information, because that's the perfect opportunity. They're moving the locations. It's a perfect opportunity, or they may be new to the state, closing on that home, right? So that's the perfect opportunity to talk to them about it, to talk to them about what's going to be on their ballot. You as realtors are so active in your community, and this is really just another way for you to stay engaged and on top of that, of all that's happening in your community. But a great way to also work with your title partners to make sure that they possibly have voter registration cards at the closing table for you and your closing packet. If you don't get it there, you can also put it in your closing gift to your client, just as a reminder. Also, a great way to do it's a way to do another pop by. I know you guys are always looking for ways to reach out to your clients and make contact with them. It's a great way to do that in end of September, early October, right before the deadline. Make sure everyone's voter registration is up to date, and tell them to remind them to go out and vote at the polls. So just another way to reach out to your clients.
That's great. I mean, you would know if you were helping them move, if they've changed addresses since the last election. So that's a great opportunity, like you said, to reach back out to them. So let's talk a little bit about TREPAC. Tell us what is TREPAC? What does TREPAC do, if you will, and how does it benefit our members?
Well, TREPAC, I'm just going to start with the basic, because as I just like to start with 101 here,
Yeah.
is TREPAC is the Texas Realtors Political Action Committee, and we raise funds to disperse to candidates to support real estate related issues, such as private property rights and all the issues that Amber and I have talked about today. We've talked about lots of different ones. So, but that's what we do. TREPAC money goes to support those candidates, and all those candidates are recommended based on realtor volunteers recommendations. So realtor volunteers spend hours, that's realtor volunteers that serve on the PAG and PAL committees, which we can get into in a little bit, spend hours interviewing these different candidates for all those different races that I mentioned and several more. They then make those recommendations, which goes to the board of directors, which they approve those recommendations. So it's all volunteer driven. And that's where that TREPAC money goes to support those candidates, because that TREPAC money is the first opportunity to get involved in their campaign and to build that relationship from the very beginning, the moment they start running. So we're super excited to build on that and start building those bridges for Amber to have those relationships with them down the line.
Absolutely. Well, very good. Thank you for that. So you mentioned a little bit about getting involved. I'd love to hear from both of you how members can get involved with your departments. But first, let's talk a little bit about TREPAC, Karen. So how can members get more involved with TREPAC specifically, and why is that involvement so important?
Well, you can get involved with TREPAC specifically by emailing us at trepac@hr.com for more information. We have approximately 15 events a year that are TREPAC events. They vary from education type events to fun networking events. And that is one great way to get involved. And you can get more information from us by emailing us at trepac@hr.com, or even following us on social media by joining the HER TREPAC Facebook group. But it's so important to get involved because, like I've mentioned several times, knowing this information that Amber and I are providing you, that our serving on our committees provides all this information about what's happening in the community, the important rules changes, laws changing, all of that information. That's what you get when you're involved in the PAC and involved in all that we do. You get to have that information, and you're just more educated and better able to serve your clients.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about involvement with, because you both lead advisory groups and have different volunteers in different parts of the city. So Amber, let's start with you. Tell us about how people can get involved with your department.
So we have the Governmental Affairs Advisory Group. We also do grants and community outreach projects. So if last year, if you attended the Housing Symposium at the Hyatt Galleria, that was a government affairs event featuring affordable housing. We didn't really touch on that today because there's not a lot of different laws that affected that go into effect September 1st, but that's a key issue that we're working on is housing inventory. I know y'all know better than me the lack of inventory and housing supply, but that's one of the events that you can get involved with. Even if you don't serve on the GAG, you can come to that event. You can help volunteer, speak at it. There's different ways to get involved, but also you can serve on the committee. And we work with over 150 elected officials, and also not including all the governmental agencies and associations, nonprofits we work with. I obviously cannot do that alone, and I really need member involvement because you guys always say are boots on the ground. You're the ones that are dealing with these issues we're discussing every day in your profession. So you can get involved as simple as calling me and saying, Amber, I wanted to give you a heads up on this issue I came across in Baytown or wherever. Also, you can get involved by serving. Also, get involved by letting us know what elected officials, candidates you have relationships with already. I don't like to wait until someone's elected. I pride myself on knowing people way before they ever become an elected official, just knowing them and knowing who they are. And a lot of times you guys have helped me with that because they're your neighbor, they're your client. So kind of racking your brain and looking at your relationships and helping us build those relationships. Those relationships.
Great suggestions. Karen?
Yes, so I'm liaison for 5 different committees, including the PAG, the Political Affairs Advisory Group, the Fort Bend PAL, Political Affairs Advisory Leadership, Bay Area PAL, and the Montgomery County PAL, and then the TREPAC Advisory Group. If you, at any point, so all the PAG and the PALs all interview candidates and work on get out the realtor vote. So supporting those candidates at the polls, supporting doing different activities like block walking, phone banks, campaigning for those realtor recommended candidates. So, and also all very engaged in their local communities. So for example, the Montgomery County PAL will be the one interviewing for the Woodlands Township races. And then the PAG is interviewing for the Houston City Council candidates. So it's all very local, regional focused. And so we really hope that you can get engaged in those different ways. And also if you're interested in spreading the word about the PAC or joining that, please reach out and join the TREPAC Advisory Group as well. And you can do all this on our Get Involved during October.
Yes, very good. So we will make sure to let our members know when you can apply to be a part of one of the advisory groups in October. We did have a question that came in from Armando. He asked, what was TREPAC's stance on the new process for the MUD presentation to buyers? He said, just curious.
Well, that would be a Texas Realtors question. Amber, did they have that's the MUD rule that they're talking about, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
realtors take a position on it?
I don't know if the Texas Realtors they do not take a stance on every single real estate related issue. This was not one of their priorities. I can tell you that for sure. So I can circle back and ask Texas Realtors what they thought about it. I would just guess that streamlining the process and making it more available is something that we always support, but I don't want to say yes or no. We at HAR do not come out and support state legislation. We work with our Texas Realtors, and then for federal legislation, we work with NAR. So this was not a top priority, but there were over 7,000 bills filed, and I know that they monitor and track at least a third to 2/3 of those every session.
Wow. Okay, very good. Thank you for that. So we have a lot of comments coming in, people thanking you for the valuable information and for the useful information. Peggy Pentecost said 3 superstars on screen at once. Thanks for taking your valuable time to keep our members informed. We also had a comment that came in from Archie that I just wanted to share. He said, before I joined the Fort Bend PALs, this type of info was out of sight, out of mind, but the more I get involved with PALs and TREPAC, I see how important it is to know what's going on in a local level in order to educate my clients. So thank you, ladies. And I couldn't have said it better. That's a great comment there, Archie. Thank you. Very good.
Archie and Peggy are great members, very involved.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, tons of information today. It was really helpful. We've had a lot of questions over the last week, so I think we answered those today. Is there anything else that you want to share with our members today? And we can start with Amber.
I just want to say, to those who are, I can't see the chat right now because I'm trying to be focused and professional, but whoever's on there, just thank you guys for waking up on Monday to talk about politics. I would say, I know that you see a lot in the news that seems negative, but there's a lot of great work going on. You're amongst your peers, your staff at HAR, Texas Realtors, and the National Association of Realtors. And I would just say get involved in whatever capacity you can.
Absolutely. Thank you. Karen?
Absolutely. I encourage you to get involved on one of our several committees and join us, or hopefully we hope to see you at an upcoming event like the Housing Symposium. So thank you so very much.
Yes, very good. And you can look for more information on our education website. There's an event taking place that somebody shared in the comments for TREPAC. You can take a look there. Of course, on all of our communications that come out, we will be advertising the Housing Symposium that we just mentioned and any other events so that you can get involved in governmental and political affairs in TREPAC. So thank you both, Amber and Karen, for your time today. Our members, the comments are just rolling in. Thank you. You guys rock. Thank you so much. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you, Christina. Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday. Well, before we go, I do want to let everyone know that next Monday at 9 a.m., we will be interviewing Metro Chairman Sanjay Ram. So mark your calendars. That should be a great show, hearing all about Metro and the work they do for the greater Houston area. So be sure to tune in next Monday at 9 a.m. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.